Welcome back. This week we will focus on a particular exercise, very interesting exercise that are given in the chapter. And I believe apart from learning the theory, the focusing on these exercises and doing these exercises in a best possible way is the way to go forward and test the learning of the theory, to some extent. Not like we are doing it in a very professional way, but still let's just say we are outsider from, I mean, we are basically academic people, and we want to learn this design and development and various aspect of it, because we want to bring some value into our research, applied science research. So from that angle, it's not a very the learning doesn't need to be very cut and throat and very focused on various thing, but rather at least get the message, various type of message, and more importantly focusing on these exercises. These will all be helpful, I believe. So yeah, let's get started. So the exercise, there are a lot of exercises, but I will focus on only one exercise, which is identify the VRIN resources for a product-based company you admire. What new product opportunity might be enabled by these resources? So just to recap, what is VRIN? V stands for valuable, R stands for rare, I stands for inimitable, and N stands for non-substitutable. Now valuable basically means to be valuable, a resource must either allow a firm to achieve greater performance than competitors, or reduce a weakness relative to competitors. So resources here can be knowledge, can be human resource, can be technology, can be the hardware that the company already have, the software company already have, and the talent even. That's also part of thing, equally important, the hiring the right kind of people who can deliver, innovate, interesting, or produce innovative solution, etc. Those are also via RIN resources, you must say. Various other thing you can say also. So I'll try to carve out this exercise, or try to do justice for this particular exercise in terms of in a valuable context which is relevant for me, and I believe you'll find it to be interesting to hear that. So let's understand also that what is mean rare means, given competition, a valuable resource must be rare. That means it should be belonging to that particular company only, something like that. Inimitable means that for value and rarity to persist, a resource must not be easily imitated. That means whatever the technology, or maybe it can be certain hardware, availability of certain hardware that they had innovated, and it's not even patented, or even patented, let's say. And sometimes people don't patent things because to patent it, you just have to disclose that thing, and a lot of patent infringement is a normal matter of fact. So I know for a fact that a lot of things are not patented. So yeah, and and the inimitable, that's what I say. Rare and non-substitutable, even if valuable, rare, and imitable, resource providing advantage cannot be easily substituted. That means that it let's say certain age that the company people have on developing certain new technology, that the age due to certain hardware resource, or certain software availability, or certain knowledge, let's just say, uh, so that should not be that age cannot be achieved or subdued by other company using some different technology or different hardware, different software, or different knowledge base, etc., etc. So yeah, so this VRIN is a good way of looking into, I believe, into it's a very interesting way to product opportunity identification, where you look into that what can be my VRIN as a institution, and for us actually academic people, I believe, since we are on into focusing into or we want to have a long-term planning, like this is what I want to do, and let's be honest that it's not like that the idea that we worked on, paper we generate, journal paper and all these things, these are not something that that I only know that this is the way to work, and everyone knows that, and I mean to some extent, but it's a matter of focus. It's not matter of 1 year, matter of 5 year, 10 year, and you keep on developing those or focusing on that line of research, and after a long time you be in a certain juncture where people you realize that you have a lot of resources now in terms of knowledge. So knowledge can be various things actually. Knowledge can be just conceptual knowledge. That is something common to all of us, like people will understand, oh yeah, that's the way they do this thing, and that's the way it works. But then conceptual knowledge is not enough, and I think it's actually available to all, but the value that you bring is basically depending on that conceptual knowledge. You really do the quantitative research and develop the knowledge base, or more practically develop the software solutions, or and carve out a lot of interesting hardware and develop that technology on a longer term basis, that this is how it will work, and only or your lab will know that this is how the technology works in a nutshell, in a very detailed way. This is the software we use, and those will be your proprietary property, lab's proprietary property in a longer run. I'm saying that, not maybe in the first year you don't have anything valuable resource to show that this is what it is, but then after 5 or 10 years you will see that the age that you have. Of course, all the research work that you do, that will be in some journal and all this thing, but those are, again, journals are some sort of conceptual discussion there, and it's not like you are submitting all of your resources and all this. And sometimes if you think that the research works are more valuable and you need to hide or you need to technically protect the innovative solution, then you need to go for the patent and all this thing, that and then in the patent it's more like a techno-legal thing. You built a legal space that this is the technology or this is the solution that we are talking about, and there you don't need to show everything. You just draw things here and discuss things in a conceptual level, and there you can hide a lot more actually rather than in paper, because in paper you need to show data and quantitative analysis and etc. So that's how it works actually. Yeah, so basically the exercise is about so first so for me actually the company that I admire is some name is MI Labs, and they produce small animal scanners. So small animal means basically they I know that these are very contextual thing, but still this is the only example that I can think of, and I try to make it a generalized so that it doesn't seems to be very boring video, but and also try to not to go into the too much technical detail of things. So the company that I admire here is MI Labs, and so I will try to identify and do a justice of identifying the VRIN resources of this company, and and depending on that I will try to address what are the new product that can be launched. I mean, that's my perception, and yeah, so that's it. And yeah, so MI Labs is basically a company which makes the preclinical scanners. Preclinical means basically the scanner that are used for small animal research. And as we know that this small animal like mouse, small mouse, rat, various mammalian, these are used as a substitute or precursor to human level research, or something you are developing a medical solution or medical diagnostics, so you test it on a small animal first. And these are very well established method where the idea is that something worked here will work there actually, and there is a certain mechanism that it has to follow, that you don't do the very random thing, but there is a way to I mean, this is well established actually. So I'm not a biologist, but we know that these are established. So they produce these scanners, and basically it's the knowledge base is physics, computer science, chemistry, mathematics, and electrical engineering. These are the base, and I think and that's it, I think. So it will be very interesting exercise. Okay, so let's move ahead. Okay, so this is the strategy that we will be following. First, we will perform patent landscape analysis of MI Labs, and then we'll also select another similar company and do the same thing, that means patent landscape analysis, and then we'll see the comparatively how it looks like, and then we'll come to what is the VRIN of MI Labs, and then finally we will try to answer the final question or the final part of the exercise, which is what could be the new product idea, depending on the understanding that these are the VRIN of MI Labs. So that's more or less will be the strategy of answering or working for this exercise. Okay, so yeah, so there are a lot of not lot, I would say, if you search Google patent, and there will find, let's say, I would say maybe close to 20 patents. And of course, as I discussed this thing in my previous videos also, you will find patent which are same patent in same patent in Dutch and same patent in US patent, and etc, and I would say that there are more than that maybe, and that is because most of the patents are basically international filed, PCT, or is that the right word? I don't remember, PCT or PTC or something like that, which is patent, PCT, patent corporation TT numbers. So that means those are applied internationally. Now, international doesn't mean that for all the countries in the world, but I mean the assignee or applicant has the option that what are the countries that they are applying for, and that's the overall thing. And I should at least give some view of what are the product that MI Labs have, and but anyway, so you can check that if you really are interested. And certainly I don't want to make this video very niche and very specific to MI Labs or something like that, because we are actually doing an exercise and I want to make it more of a generalized experience, that something that all of us can relate to. So So I will just touch upon general thing rather than going into the detail, which may not be interesting for you. So so here, of course, so before going into the design and all this thing, the collimator design, so I will say the MI Labs is basically a company that the products are actually preclinical scanner. There are, I think, there are preclinical spec scanner mostly, and of course, if you go to their website, you will see that their scanner basically is a multimodal scanner. That means you can do optical imaging, you can do nuclear medicine imaging, PET, SPECT, etc., etc. There are other ancillary product, that means, but these are the main product, and of course something like, extra equipments like anesthesia bed, etc., etc. That's also ancillary product that should be generated by the company, because that's a part of the whole experiment. And of course, who are the users, or I mean, more appropriately, who are the customer of this product? And those are actually the medical, people doing medical research, medical as well as biological research. They need to perform experiment on the small animal, that means mouse and etc., etc. And so that's the thing. Now, before going into without going into too much of unnecessary detail, a collimator is basically an integral part of a SPECT scanner. SPECT means basically single photon emission computed tomography, and the MI Labs have the IP of a very interesting design of a collimator, which is called cluster collimator, which is very essential for high energy imaging, or one of the very interesting solution to the high energy imaging, because when you do high energy imaging, there is something called H penetration that happens that reduces the image quality. So this particular design called cluster collimation, and that is basically in the left side in the figures encircled, or I mean covered with the red rectangle. These are the figures that I cropped out from the patent of the cluster collimator, and I will not go into the explaining thing because that will be pretty boring, but I will just touch upon various general aspect. And I would say that as a physicist, or maybe I mean our community here, of course, can be from the engineering background also, but me myself being not particularly from the engineering background, now I understand. Now we should appreciate the various design, and as this application applied scientist, we should have more and more knowledge of various other engineering field. For example, here before designing these extra a very complex design, I mean, if you want, you can read the patent, but the point being here that there is always a question that how complex you can draw, I mean you are proposing, and whether you can manufacture that or not. So that also need to be kept in mind. And so and yeah, and I would say that sometimes doing research, we get fixated into certain way of thinking that this is the whatever given, and now I want to do something on top of that. But we forget to have a more distant view of things, that things can be quite different, and etc., etc. So yeah, so again, I'm not going to that explaining thing, but I'll just give you some advice here. I mean, maybe most of more than me, but and try to make it relevant to the exercise that we are doing. And so basically MLFs have a IP or patent on a certain design of a collimator, which is very essential for performing high energy imaging. So that's the bottom line. And in the right side you see the upgradation or changing of the or upgradation of that design into something they call supercluster collimator. Again, it's quite complex, and again, I don't have any intention of going into the detail, but I want to also give you some general not advice, but general idea how this whole thing works. We think that the patents are like something which like quite different from paper and all this thing. Yeah, there is a distinctive difference of working on a paper or working of a paper or research which will publish in a journal, etc., etc., or and working on some patent. Patent is more like a broad what do I say, that if you are painting some, if you're a painter, you at first you do some broad strokes and have a idea of the what will be the tentative outline of the figure, or let's say you're drawing some your friend in front of you, etc. So you'll make a broad stroke of the outline, etc. So patent is more like that. If you think that it should not be about the design, I mean, I'm not saying that okay, so let me just take some time. What I mean is that in many cases patent is more like an idea level thing, and I mean the proof of whether it will work or not doesn't have to be given to the patent examiner. Rather you can play in the conceptual level, and that's very important, because if you reveal everything in the patent, then then it becomes a paper, and then everyone can repeat it, and if everyone can infringe it very easily. And although the whole idea of having a patent is basically you are actually registering it, but I would say that the patent, the more important part of the patent is actually to reveal it to some extent in a conceptual level, that people will get the idea and they will know that this is the type of design or type of algorithm. It can be algorithm also, that if I have that kind of a design, that kind of algorithm, then it's an infringement most probably. So that's the reason, I mean, that's the way patent should be portrayed, so that yeah. So yeah, and in fact if you read any patent, you'll see that that there is no result section. There is description, claim, and mostly figures, and sorry, of course the figures. And I would say that if you are reading a patent, then I think most of the patent you might feel helpful if you start from just figures, the description of the figures, brief description, and the broad description. If you start with that, then you'll start getting the idea. But if you start reading the claims and description, broad description, then you might not get the idea, and you'll find it very difficult. So anyway, so a lot of things can be said, and so I think I'm able to get the message to you that patent is basically more of an conceptual idea level thing, and most of the time the inventors or the assignee or the inventor here may not be sure about every aspect of things, but they know that this is the invention is about, and now how it will perform in when they use or make an instrument out of it, and how much it will improve thing, or how much it will look like, etc., etc. That needs dedicated dedicated experiment, and in generally people publish those things in journal. But patent is about making secure that this is the legal ground, and then you publish in the journal. That's all okay. But yeah, that's how it should work, at least in this field. So what we learned here is that MLFs have this design as a IP, and that's why they might have an extra advantage compared to the other competitor, although we don't know exactly what are the potential competitor and with what are the IP they hold. And yeah, and now here there is another patent on breast scanner, and these are all recent, and particularly this one is very recent. And yeah, I mean, yeah, maybe I will give you some explanation at least here. Okay, so let's not go into the detailed explanation. Let's just understand it in a broader ways, and we know that there is a lot of cases of so a lot of cancer diseases in women are basically mostly breast cancer, and hence you need dedicated imaging radiology, or not here, of course it's not radiology, it's emission tomography, and that means you are doing functional imaging. That means the body will be injected with the human body, the woman's body will be injected with certain radiopharmaceutical, and that will have certain affinity to certain glucose or certain cancer, and if that woman had a breast cancer, then that will be absorbed into that tissue, whichever part it contain the cancerous cells, and etc etc. And then the scanner basically needs the breast to be put it inside a certain position, and then it will perform the imaging, whatever it is. So this is another interesting patent that they have. And just to add to the previous slides discussion, why you might have the question that why high energy imaging, that means high energy gamma imaging, is important. There are various applications. One is in therapy, people want to know whether the radiation therapy is happening in a right way. That means the radiation is falling onto the right part of the body, the cancerous part of the body, or not, because you want your radioactive beam to falling on that certain part, or ion beam, whatever you want to. There are a lot of examples, and not on the healthy part of the body, because those are very harmful thing. So for that you need to perform imaging, and basically the lot of cases those gammas are basically very high energy gammas, so you need to perform imaging for that. And of course we are talking about is preclinical imaging. That means here basically these will be done for the mice, and of course it's not doesn't mean that we are building instrument for surviving or helping the mice or mouse to fight the cancer or something like that. We are not that good people, I guess. Preclinical imaging basically means here that a lot of pharmaceutical or a lot of therapy based radioactive therapy, whatever, the planning and the development, how it should be performed, what are the radiopharmaceutical chemical that needed to be injected, etc etc. That all needs a good amount of research and development. And now the question is whether you need a real experiment to be performed. That means now of course you can't perform it on a regular human, because they have because that's very risky, because it's all research, so you might put some extra dose or certain different chemical which is harmful technically. So it was done on a mouse, and those are mammalian, and there was a lot of literature or a lot of established literature on that fact that you can study it on a mouse, and that can be translated to human easily. That means use the same procedure, same chemical, same whatever it is, and it will work there. So that's the point of view here. Okay, so the breast scanner, so they have IP on the breast scanner also, and I would say that I think they don't have this product right now, at least in their web page I can't see anything. Mostly those are preclinical scanner, and of course breast, of course here, of course it means clinical, sorry, yeah, clinical, so on human certainly. And yeah, there is yeah, I will come to a certain interesting thing later, or maybe I will explain it now itself. Uh, in all this, all their MI Labs patent, actually, when you see that what is the difference, if you ask the question that what is the unique about it, and of course that's the important part of our understanding. We want to understand that what is the unique intellectual value they have, and when we compare with, let's say, another company that will do in the next week, and I can say from now itself that you'll find that it's not like in very in a broad way they are doing something totally unique, not like that. Actually, that's not how the technology works. Rather, technology works is that the MLabs people, they have a very good expertise on something called pinhole collimation actually, and I think there is one guy who had really pioneered into it, and who is the author of the patent, or I mean inventor here, all the patent that I'm showing. And in all their IPs, they actually the what should I say, the word the innovation, or the point of innovation is on how the same or the collimation and pinhole collimation or different kind of collimation can be, not just pinhole, I mean there are a lot of different way of collimation, and how those collimation can be performed in a custom way. Of course here we are doing breast imaging, and mind you, the breast actually I mean it's not the full body, so it's still the field of view is small, so it's what I'm trying to say is that they are using their own that particular expertise of collimation and innovation and collimation, etc., into solving different kind of problem. Here of course the breast imaging, clinical, and previously we are talking about the different design of the collimator, which is actually certainly for the specifically for the mouse imaging. So yeah, so what I'm trying to, again I'm just trying to repeat it, and yeah, and that is that the patent in and if you do the landscape analysis, comparative patent landscape analysis for different companies, then you realize that it's not really they are doing broadly different, but rather each company have a certain expertise on certain thing. And here of course this company has a very broad experience of different type of collimation and how that can be done perfect with the success actually, and they have a good track record of success. Yeah, so let's move ahead. Okay, so moving ahead, here we can see oh yeah, the same scanner here, and sorry, say the same images from the same patent for the breast scanner, and here more explanation how the collimation work. And these are not yeah, I mean it's very innovative, and I will not go into the explanation because that will be boring for you and that will be too niche, I will say. So but I was more into giving you the glimpse of things here. And yeah, and again yeah, so yeah, okay, so let's not go into the detailed discussion because otherwise it will not be interesting, I would say, you know. So it's again, you can see it's a innovative solution to the various different type of collimation that one can achieve. And and I was trying to understand it by reading the patent carefully, and I would say that I mean, I haven't given too much of time, but it's not easy to understand, and there are a lot of gaps, and certainly patent is not like a journal paper that you just read it and understand it, etc., etc. So it's more like a conceptual, and even if you ask an inventor, they will say sometime that when I was writing the filing for the patent, that time I don't understand those things, how that will pan out. But now, after doing a 5-year research and investing time into it, now I understand that that's more or less is the general response you will get from the inventors. So yeah. More images, and here you can see gradually the idea are described in more detail, and here you can see basically these are pinhole collimator, and so the way to read patent is like, it's not like in one shot it will reveal everything, but rather it will start with the broad stroke, and figures will be more less detailed, and then they will try to explain every part of the instrument in a better way. And here you can see it's actually pinhole collimator, and they talk about the movement of the collimator. Here in the left figure you will see the 16 number, that's actually supposed to be the conceptually they are saying it's a motor. Actually that means through that you can actually move or translate or slide the collimator, and of course again these are detailed, maybe you are not interested, but that's but I still want to touch upon those things, and that's how the imaging works actually, because because I worked on some preclinical scanner they have, and they are basically the movements of the, not the collimator, but actual movement of the animal bed was performed, so that they can, and that's a very important part of their invention actually. But here of course, since it's an human body, that means our part of the human body, which is breast here, so you can't expect that the whole human body will translate, because that's not an easy thing, because in generally if in any kind of imaging, if you I mean as a whole, if the body can be moved without the internal movement, then it's very okay, which is the case for the mice or mouse, but human, it's not that easy, because it's a body weight is high and very large, etc. So what this invention is talking about, instead of moving the breast or the object that we are trying to image, we will move the collimator itself, and that's I would say is a very interesting solution or innovation. And here you can see this collimator are actually converging. The left one, I mean I'm talking about figure 3b, and the left one here 25.1 is basically tilted into right, and the 25.3 is tilted into the left. So that's how the imaging works actually. And if you slide it, so basically then the volume of interest or the field of view will change, so anyway, so these are a lot of detail, and yeah, let's not, I don't want to bore you with the details. Yeah, so I will also try to point out here the figure 4, and this actually is certainly not the part of the what they are continually discussing in that particular patent, and rather it's more of an ancillary idea of that okay, so I discussed this design, etc., etc., but we can have this kind of a different design also, where maybe detector will rotate, etc., etc. So it's more of a touch onto the idea in a conceptual level again, because they want to through patent, and they understand that maybe this can also be done, so let's say that, and by that way they are actually claiming that if someone will be doing similar this kind of thing, figure 4 design, then that's patent infringement. So that's the point. Okay, so that's all about the breast scanner, and those are very interesting read for me also. Now they have an interesting IP, and this is also very recent, I think 2022. And this is again a preclinical scanner. You can see in the figure 2 there is 100 mark. I mean the 100 basically denotes to the figure of a human actually. And this is the figure 2 is basically the whole view of the scanner. And so again here here they are using, you can see the pinhole, that means again some sort of collimation, and it is actually very interesting because these the small circle that you see in the figure 1, first of all the inner circle is a collimator and the outer circle is the detector, supposed to be the detector. And the inner circle, the small round shape thing that you see, the 12 round circles, those are actually mechanical, you can rotate it. That's what the conceptually the design is about, and that's how you are actually making sure that the certain part of the inside the field of view will be scanned by certain part of the detector, etc., etc., and that will pan out in different ways. So again you are seeing that they are using the same sort of an expertise into some interesting design. And again if you see the website of the MI Labs, you'll not see any kind of product similar to this kind of design. So these are all conceptually they conceived, and they might work on it, they might make a product out of it, and might not actually. It all depends on, like, okay, so maybe they will do some research and find out that, oh yeah, it may not be commercially possible and there is not too much advantage, and even if we make it, it's not in competitive product, like from there are like a lot of the service this will provide, that the similar kind of product from other company are providing in lesser price, etc., etc. So patent doesn't mean that you have a product itself. Now here the same I would say I haven't understood this patent in a full extent, but here again they're talking about different sort of orientation and the movement of the collimator. So in the previous slide you had seen that in the figure 2 you had seen that the cylinder, the collimator cylinder, and basically contain different sort of tube which contain the pinholes actually, which will be the main part of the imaging. And what here they are saying that, okay, so those can be moved, and so the movement basically means, again similar to the breast scanner, means that you are playing with the field of view and how which part of the field of view will fall onto or project into the detector plane, etc., etc. And that's basically, that's the overall story. And there are a lot of things I can say, but again that will be too much niche thing. Now here they are again playing with this idea that, okay, so this doesn't have to be a circle, it can be octagon, and this can be figure 6a is quite drastically different. And I would assume, I was thinking like, why you design it at a like this, the 4 will be a star like pattern, and maybe it has some interesting feature, and overall, how do you fit this thing into a overall design, because it's a clinical scanner, so it's a huge design, and generally this collimator has to be made with a very high Z material, because otherwise the radiation will penetrate and you'll lose the purpose of imaging, etc., because of the edge penetration. So it will be very heavy, and so you need to give some mechanical sort of a structure, so it's a big question here. And I would say I haven't understood the 6a and 6b design. Maybe it's about the axial direction, it's different, but I don't know, like, or maybe just two different type of design they are showing in two option, because you can't have these two together. Yeah, and in figure 7, I think what they are saying is that you can think about this the circular grooves where basically the pinholes are attached. Those can be made close to each other by again some mechanical arrangement, and I don't know, I'm not a mechanical engineer, and I would assume that because I know this inventor and he is not a mechanical engineer, he is a physicist actually. So I was very amazed that how you come up with these options that okay, so this will move, can we do that? And I would say that since he's a senior person and he knows this thing very well, that these are mechanically, I mean, feasible to engineer, so etc etc. But anyway, maybe he was playing with the idea, and I would say that in patent people do not care, the examiner will never care about that whether it is can be engineered or not mechanically, but rather conceptually, design wise, yeah, these are all okay. And I think even in the patent detail you can see like lot of hint that how this can be done in real practice, how this design can be conceived in the real practice, using those motors and etc etc. Those are really existing. It does not like, and of course since those motors, I mean, again that will be a bit niche, but those precision of this motor, the translations etc that I'm talking about has to be very precise, otherwise the whole imaging, if the imaging has a resolution of like less than millimeter, then those movement had to be accurate enough, like even maybe micrometer maybe, so anyway, figure 8 here, I think it's what it was about the full scanner, etc etc. Yeah, and now here again lot of figure, and I think they are talking about, you can see the pinholes, and I would say that these drawings are not accurate, but anyway, yeah, again a lot of detail. And here in the figure 11 you can certainly see that that there is a movement actually happening. That means you can actually close by pinholes, you can make it closer. And I think that these are of course proposed to achieve some interesting prospect of imaging, but anyway, so although I'm very much sure that these are not in the production or not even in the full scope research, or maybe full scope research, but full scope means basically the quantitative research on top of the design, okay, so how we'll do that and etc etc, and how much it produces, the helps the imaging etc etc. Okay, sorry. Yeah, again, yeah, here you can see actually in the figure 15 you can see this is the stopper actually. So conceptually they are talking about stoppings, or making certain pinholes inactive, and that may be done for certain reason which I am not really sure. And of course in figure 13a you can see, I think they're talking about the movement along the radial direction, which I don't know what it will do. All this looks very very sketchy. I mean, yeah, this gives me the feeling that design wise they are proposing everything and they don't know which one will give you the good imaging performance, and so they are exploring everything. Oh yeah, I will do this, will move in the direction and this direction, and yeah, this will be achieved with this engineering, and etc etc. But when it when it ends with the actual manufacturing, then they will realize that, oh yeah, it's not possible actually, and the motor will not work here, and the whole thing, it's very heavy and it cannot be done, etc., etc. And or if even if it can be done, the component whole thing need to be redesigned, and it will be very expensive, etc., etc. So but then patent is, as we can see, is more about conceptual and exploring or exhausting all the possible ideas design wise. Of course this is about the design, but a lot of patents are actually algorithm, actually you'll see. And so there also you'll see that in the algorithm, whatever the parameter one can think of, or whatever the formalism can be, they just pan out all the formalism without, because they don't have to actually prove that this formalism will work or this is better. Because if you want to publish in a journal, then of course you'll have to show that, oh yeah, this formalism, oh yeah, it will improve this and this much. So all have to be carefully, you need to prove it. But here there is no burden of proving, but rather you are just panning out, okay, this legal thing, this conceptual thing, I'm taking a legal what is this called, legal ownership of that for 20 years. That's the time for validity of a patent. After that you need to renew it if you think that your idea is sellable, or if you want to make a business out of it, or if you want to license it, etc., etc. Okay, that's it about the today's video. And I think there was another recent patent that was on X-ray imaging, and they are talking about certain different type of collimation which will be good for X-ray imaging. And since I'm not really familiar with the X-ray CT or those kind of things, so I haven't added it here. And so for this week, yeah, of course I skipped 1 week, as you have noticed. But anyway, for this week I will just end here, where we had described that what are the important IPs that the MLFs hold. And then in the next week I hope I can choose a certain at least one company, because that will there can be many companies, but at least one company which have a similar sort of a product, and I will try to see what the IPs they hold, and try to understand what are their focus domain, or what are their expertise. Here we can say certainly that the expertise in collimation, different design of collimation, different innovative collimation, etc., etc. So that's it. See you in the next week. Yeah, take care. Bye bye.